All right, regular meeting, or the rescheduled meeting of the mayor and the city council, city of Port Allen, on the Wednesday, March the 8th to Thursday, March 9th, 2023 at 5:35 p.m. City Council Chambers, third floor, City Hall. Each person must decide before entering the chamber which agenda item they wish to be comment on. If they are not seated in the chambers when the agenda item is heard, they will be notified by an officer to enter the council chamber to address that agenda item. Please silence all electronic devices. Agenda item 1, call to order. Agenda item number 2, stand for the pledge. Lacy, you gonna lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Then I three roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Gordon?
Here.
Mr. Hubble?
Here.
Ms. Lacy? Brothers? Riviere?
Here.
You got a phone.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February the 8th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Lacy, second by Councilwoman Gordon. Any objections? Hearing none.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes.
Ms. Lacy? Yes. Ms. Riviere?
Yes.
Agenda item 5, approval of the minutes of the special meeting of February 27th, 2023.
Second.
I got a motion by Councilman Riviere, second by Councilwoman Gordon. Any objections? Hearing none.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes.
Ms. Lacy? Yes. Ms. Riviere? Motion passes.
Yes.
Before we proceed any further, council, I need to amend, agenda item number 12. Typographical error. It says, consider introduction of Louisiana Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Resolution to submit to DEQ as prepared by PEC engineers. It should read, consider adoption of a resolution of the Louisiana Municipal Water Pollution Prevention to be submitted to DEQ as prepared by PEC engineers. Second. Got a motion by Councilman Riviere, second by Councilman Brown. Any objections? Hearing none.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes.
Ms. Lacy? Yes. Ms. Riviere?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, public comments. Comments from the public are allowed in accordance with the Louisiana Revised Statute 42:11, section 2 through 34, and specifically limited to agenda items to be considered during the meeting. 3 minutes per person and 15 minutes per topic. One person sign up, which is the insurance agency, okay. Agenda item 7, presentation by Gallagher Insurance Representative.
Hello.
How y'all doing today?
Y'all missed me, didn't you? I have to apologize to y'all first and foremost. I think the last time I spoke with y'all, I had no water up here with me, and I was having a hard time understanding myself. So my apologies if I came across that way. But I wanted to start off tonight. Will is so sorry he could not be here. He had a family obligation that he was unable to get out of. So Andrew and I wanted to come to the meeting, and I asked if I could be the one to speak because we have conducted our open enrollments here over the last 2 days. I will tell you that I know a concern of yours was the employees' reaction to those that were on the base plan, and their deductions were going to go up to $99.97 or $100 if you said. We did not have the first issue with that. I told Terry, I said, you obviously prepped them really well. I know she did a hard job last week going to each of the departments and kind of explaining to them the changes, but we were able to do that yesterday. We had open enrollment yesterday beginning at 10, and we had such a large amount of people that came in. Our plan was to see them individually, and I said, you know what, we're just gonna do one big meeting to get, this crew on their way, because they don't wanna sit here and talk about insurance. So we ended up doing that, and I just have to tell y'all that as the broker for you guys, it was a pleasure seeing their reactions to what was being offered to them. So as soon as we talked about the insurance, we said, listen, your deduction, if you are on the lower plan, is going to go up. If you are on the base plan or the buy-up, it's going to go down. But I said, this is the deal. I explained to them about the non-stock card, and they're all looking at me out in the crowd. They're like, what's the catch? And I said, listen, there is no catch. We have done our research on this. We have groups doing this. And they were like, this is amazing. So at this point, we currently have 42 enrolled in medical as of right now with United Healthcare. I can tell you at this point, I have 40 signed applications for people enrolling in medical. I know there's several that were just dispersed that we're waiting on. There are also approximately 10 employees that took the apps home with them to discuss with their spouses about potentially adding spouses and kids. So they were genuinely excited about this. I think the medical enrollment is going to go up because of it. We did discuss the dental and vision and our move to Blue Cross, and they were excited about that, making that move. What they were really excited about was the fact that you guys are now offering them the long-term disability that's employer paid. And that was a pleasure telling them that yesterday, because they were truly thankful and just like, I can't believe, this is amazing. So I wanted to let y'all know, thank you on behalf. I know I can't speak for the employees, but I'm the one that's speaking to them and presenting this to them. So I can see on their faces that they are very grateful for what is happening, and I know they appreciate that extra benefit being added on. So we expect great enrollment on the medical, dental, vision. You're going to have all your full-time eligible employees enrolled in the basic life as well as the long-term disability. So I'm getting with Terry. I know we gave them a few days until next Friday to turn that in. I'm getting with Terry just to finalize everything, but we're looking good at this point. So I know what Andrew passed out to you is just a sheet, what I wanted to show you. So if you look at the current base plan, what we did is, because there's 3 plans, you have 18 on the buy down, 18 on the base, and you have 6 on the buy up. So what we did was we took a blending of the employee rate on all 3 of those plans. So that's where the 185 comes from. So if you look at that compared to what we're moving to in Blue Cross, the employees are going to save around $6,000 a year. The group is going to save $91,000. Because you are saving this $91,000 and you're adding the long-term disability, which is approximately $11,000 per year, you're still saving $80,000. So you guys are way out ahead. You're offering these fantastic benefits. We made sure yesterday and conveyed to them that the city is consuming a lot of this, and a lot of our groups do not do that. So thank you on behalf of the employees, and we appreciate your continued partnership with Gallagher. Does anybody have any questions?
Just a comment, I'm glad to hear that the response from our employees was so positive.
They were.
Yeah.
They were very appreciative, and like I said, when I mentioned the Visa card, they were like, what? And then whenever I said long-term disability, they were just amazed. In fact, because you guys are now offering the employer-paid long-term disability, we have a lot of employees that are inquiring about adding the short-term. So if something happens, they won't have a lapse in coverage should something happen. So that employer-paid product has picked up the pace on the lack of participation on the voluntary short-term disability. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Agenda 8, Further discussion on the introduction of an ordinance to deal with the placement of grease traps for commercial businesses. Any discussions? I think the last conversation we had that, Attorney Evans spoke with the council, he wanted the council to reach out to the businesses and see if they had any, input into the ordinance that we get ready to impose on businesses. And did anybody reach out to any of the businesses?
I did.
I did.
Okay.
So, if we approve this here and they decide they don't want it, then we still enforce it, right?
So, well, I mean, tonight isn't for an ordinance adoption. I think it's just for discussion.
But I'm just saying, you know, if I was not talking to them, it's not like they have the option of if they want it or not. If once we approve it and vote for it, they
You
have
can
to
always
accept
change it
right?
again.
Yeah.
You can always change it again, amend the ordinance again, I mean, if the council wanted to.
I mean, I think this is, the route we was going, I don't know what we had to talk about.
Well, we, you know, we modeled one, I think I pulled, from City of Covington, if I'm not mistaken. They had one that was probably more in line with something with Port Allen as opposed to something that you would see in Baton Rouge or New Orleans or something like that. So, you know, again, we intended that to be kind of just the first draft, the starting point of it. And, you know, we wanted to, you know, elicit feedback from the community and from especially our restaurants as to, you know, if we think this may be a problem for us, or, you know, I think you're on the right track type of deal. Then obviously amendments can be made to the ordinance at any point in time before final adoption.
So, you know, granted, they're paying for a service, but we're providing a service. But, you know, all of the grease that were in that 8th Street corridor, it didn't just magically appear in there. So they're not, you know, to me, they're at fault. So, and like we had discussed last week, we're not going to immediately just shut them down or anything like that. It'll be a process of some warnings and at some point.
So isn't that your purpose on the public hearing? On your input? That's the purpose of the public
That as
hearing.
well, yeah. But, you know, we wanted, my vision was something like this, you know, maybe input two ahead of time so that we can revise it as we go along. So, I mean, that was a pretty beefy ordinance. I think it had 5 or 6 pages.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's not something we want to be taking notes.
Right.
Probably at the public hearing, and then to one agenda item later, we're trying to adopt the ordinance or adopt something that amends that ordinance.
But these grease traps are requirements for the businesses, aren't they? Should they have them?
I mean, they have them already. What this ordinance does is more of an inspection and more. I guess it's more in-depth regulation of the grease traps on the city, on the municipal level.
I know Mr. Hammock didn't sign up to speak on this, but you know,
He's pretty close.
you would
Ask me some questions.
you had mentioned something the last time about some municipality.
Well, it was a few months ago. I was at the same meeting at one of the ladies that was having an
Right.
issue off of 8th Street. And I had put forth to y'all that as an owner of a restaurant in Baton Rouge some time ago, there was an inspection process that I had to go through on an annual basis for a private company came and tested my discharge water, and it couldn't exceed a certain part per million of oil or grease in it. And if it did exceed it, I had a certain period of time to get back in compliance. If it did, or if it didn't exceed it, then they forwarded that information to City of Baton Rouge, and I was clear for another year. It was pretty it was pretty easy to deal with. It was just, it wasn't too innocuous to really adhere to. The procedure was just pretty simple. And I don't know what that standard was, what the part per million was with the city back then. I was just like, here, and I think I want to say it was like $125 a year for the inspection for that private company to come out and do it, and I paid them directly. I didn't pay the city. I paid that private company directly.
But by you being an owner, how do you feel about it?
As a business owner, I want the least amount of regulation as possible. I understand that there needs to be some regulation. And with the history of that particular 8th Street sewer line, they've been dealing with this for at least 20 years. And it's always a finger pointing move as to who's doing what, who's responsible for what. And I'm a problem solver. And in my mind, this is the quickest and easiest way to solve that problem. And I don't think it's too burdensome. I mean, if you came out with an ordinance that said, okay, you got to pay $1,500 for this inspection per year to be able to accomplish it, I'm going to fight you on it. That's over the top. $125, $150 fee to get this testing done and get the results submitted to the city so it can be logged in our whatever file y'all have on the businesses that are operating in the city, saying either a pass or a fail, and then y'all can follow up with more inspections if need be. I think that's reasonable, and that's just being a good neighbor.
I think ours calls for more inspections than that. Did you see the first draft of what?
I haven't seen any
Okay.
draft.
So maybe we'll get that to you and.
How long ago it was $125? I'm quite sure it's higher now, maybe $250 at the most.
I don't know. I'd have to look back, and I don't remember the name of the company that I know where his office is over in Industrialplex, but he does all kinds of water testing. I've got the name in my old company file, so I could look it up, call the guy, and see what he would charge right now. It could have gone up. I don't know, but like I said, if I just had my grease traps pumped out, the first company that I called wanted to charge me $1,400 to have both of my grease traps pumped out, and then $475 per quarter to have them maintained. No, that was ridiculous in my eyes. Picked up the phone, found another local place that services Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and to have both of mine pumped out, it was $225 every 6 months. Now, which one am I going to go with? I watched them do it. They did a real good job.
You need to refer some of the other companies, some of these other businesses to them too as well, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, all they got to do is pick up the phone and ask. I mean, I know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, right in the 7 restaurants or 7 places that serve food in the immediate 10-block area.
Share the information with
Now, how can we
you.
make it, could that be something that we, not mandate, but like where they have to get these, but once they do the inspection and, then we would have to they would have to make sure that they get these traps pumped out and get the necessary maintenance taken care of, and we have to maybe log that in and keep a
I think that's going a little far.
Keep a track of that.
Because that's
it's not
what,
gonna fall to the people who are having all these plumbing issues.
but that's the whole point for the discharge water testing. Once a year, so it doesn't matter, in my eyes, it doesn't matter how often. I know one of my grease traps barely gets used because I rehabbed my kitchen and reconfigured a bunch of stuff, and I added a second grease trap, and that's the one that gets the most use. So that one probably needs to be pumped out every quarter. The other one only needs it about once every 6 months. So, but if the discharge water coming out that gets tested once a year or whatever testing regimen y'all agree on, if it's not discharging more grease or oil than it's supposed to, in my eyes, it shouldn't matter how often I get it pumped out.
That means you're in compliance then, but how about,
Right.
we're not talking about people like you, I'm talking about people that's not in compliance.
And then you'll know when they get their testing done that they're not in compliance, and then you can say, okay, here, get in compliance within the next 3 months or next 3 months. And we're
And
gonna
that's
come
what
back
I'm
out
saying,
and
all that.
you're gonna have to have it tested again and within 3 months and have your test results submitted within 3 months. That's the way I do it.
I don't have the draft in front of me, but, if I recall, our ordinance does more frequent requirements for testing, makes them test more often, makes them maintain those records so they're available for inspection by the city. It doesn't matter how many tests if you test it every week and it's in compliance every week, then, that makes sense. No requirement for pumping it out, it's still in compliance. But I've made a note, I'll email Mr. Hammock a copy of what we had originally submitted to the council, and, that maybe have to provide some more insight to the council in terms of, what we're requiring, because, again, we're looking for something that's reasonable. We want it to do the job, but we also don't want to overburden our restaurants more than what would be necessary as well. I'm an attorney, I'm not an expert on grease traps. So, it shouldn't just be, your attorney drafting something and that's what we go with, so.
If I may. The grease trap issue, the questions being raised are implementation issues. The ordinance can provide for a certain level of testing. It does not mean you have to engage in that same frequency of testing. We're not trying to be burdensome. We're not trying to impede commercial activity. But we do need the ordinance. It's imperative that we get the ordinance passed so we have some involvement in monitoring what goes into the system. So if it says we test quarterly, we can test quarterly. We can't test any more than that, but you can always test less. And I think the testing would be based upon compliance. If the problem is addressed with a certain level of testing, then there's no need for additional testing. But if the problem is not, then you have to go further. So just because you put in a particular testing frequency doesn't mean you have to follow it to the letter. But at this point, we have nothing. So, and this is just the introduction. There's still passing, and what we pass can still be tweaked between now and the next meeting. So,
We don't have an introduction.
I think we introduced.
well, this is a discussion.
This is a
for
discussion.
introduction.
We introduced
You
it, I
introduced
believe,
it
in
on
January.
February. So we still
February.
haven't settled on final language.
Correct.
But I can just say this, once a year, it may be sufficient. Going from 0 to once a year, we'll have to see how it operates, but we do need something. It's a significant problem.
Could you put the language, I'm sorry, Lanny, put the language and say up to 4 times a year? And like you said, that gives you a little wiggle room to.
Yeah, and like I said, look, we're not trying to
Right.
to do anything other than monitor what goes into the system so that we do not create problems for anybody else. Like Mr. Hammond said, just trying to create good neighbors. They don't want to be that themselves. So we have a little wiggle room in implementation. So I wouldn't concern myself too much with the specific language. Now, the enforcement provisions is a different issue. You do have to decide what you're prepared to do in terms of enforcement. But I suspect that by and large, most people want to comply. It's just, sometimes you need a little nudge. So I think, I think we can find the happy medium and not be, an impediment to the commercial activity that we require, so.
What frequency testing were y'all looking at right now?
We don't have it, we don't have anything right now, Mr. Hammond. What we're doing is trying to establish where we wanna go with it. Just like you said, annual inspection will be fine. If they come into violation, then you have repeated, inspections to determine whether they completed the findings and it's been completely cleared. Then they go back to the annual inspection again. So we haven't already got a mechanism yet as to how we're gonna enforce it and what's gonna be done.
Yeah, and an annual, in my opinion, an annual is the longest that you want to
Right.
Put out there.
And,
Anything more than that, and you're looking to invite the problems persisting, less than that, you start, less than that when they're in compliance on their annual, if they had an annual, but less, like a 6 month or a quarterly, that, I think that would start to get burdensome on the business, just because it can get expensive. And as everybody knows, everything's going up in the past year or two, so. But
I think like Lacy said, start from nothing to just trying to put some type of system in place, some type of monitoring system, and compliance.
I would say make it as simple as possible for City Hall, simple as possible for, of course, the businesses. And if y'all need my help and my thoughts just away from here on what I think it should be, I'd be more than happy to give those. I'm not looking to take advantage of the system. I try to maintain my system properly, and the sewers supervisor, he hadn't been out on mine since 2011, 2012, maybe. I keep my system up.
And I think that's just our goal.
Right.
And we just wanna make sure that everybody is, keeping their system up and in compliance, and you can't be a leader for that.
Yeah. So shoot that over to.
I'll shoot it to you. So and there's, so that the way it's initially set up right now, the city has the right to come in and sample your systems at any point in time, but it says the city wants to at least try to do everyone at least annually, but that means you can do it more often. But there's also provisions in there about, your own facility's own maintenance requirements as well.
And see, and I would contract that out, because otherwise, we're putting more of a burden on the city. And I know, especially right now, y'all are having trouble finding people to cover current positions and handle the current workloads. So why not contract that out to give property or give business owners a choice? here's a list of water test labs in the area that you can go to that we will accept as an approved water testing lab. Get the test done with them, they submit it to y'all, boom. Business owner's done, y'all have the records y'all need for compliance. And y'all don't have to worry about the personnel side of it and whatnot on making sure that it gets done.
Because other than that, Lance will be the one that's keeping up with that.
I mean, if he wants to come test my water, I'll give him an eyedropper.
But currently,
Wait a minute.
currently we have, commercial establishments that are required to have backflow preventers on the water system. This system should be implemented in the same context as that, which means they're required to submit a test that they've had by a certified vendor. And if they do not, then you notify them. Which by and large, most people comply. It should probably work the same way. You have a license, you have a grease trap, submit your testing by a certain date, and if you don't, then we'll follow up.
Right.
That way, it kind of eliminates any additional,
The frequency.
right, well, any additional duties on behalf of any staff, with the exception of following up on the testing. It's not that many, it's not that many locations, so, but I would think that would be the best way to implement it without causing any unnecessary, additional duties.
Okay, because that's what I was gonna ask for, the person, whoever they have to do it, like, that's an added duty or responsibility, and which the mayor advised me that it would be BJ. If it's not in the job description, it look like we'll be adding something to his check, huh? Just saying.
And again, this particular one is set up, and again, this is how Covington had theirs set up, and I believe a lot of other municipalities do it this way as well, what they call the 25% rule, where they're basically measuring the
Measuring the solids in
right, how whether it's more than 25% of the depth of the tank of how much before you get into grease versus water. Again, and this one has it where each food service facility shall inspect their grease traps no less than monthly. Maintenance of grease traps shall be performed as frequently as necessary to protect the sanitary sewer system. Maintenance shall be performed as determined by inspection and application of the 25% rule, or at intervals specified in the permit, whichever is more frequent. Maintenance shall be performed at least every 90 days by a licensed and registered grease trap company. And maintenance does include the complete removal of all traps, including floatable material, wastewater, sludge, and solids. So that's at a 90-day interval. So I think that's the type of things the council, would want to hear about. Is that too much? Is that just right, or is that not enough?
well, and what that's not talking about testing. That's talking about the literal pump out that needs to be done. And like I said, in my establishment, I have two. One had my old main kitchen running through it. Now my newer main kitchen has the second grease trap running through it. So most of what goes down the older grease trap is hand washing water. Well, that doesn't have a lot of solids, a lot of grease associated with that water. So that particular one, a lot of municipalities have that 90-day, quarterly pump out requirement. Baton Rouge has the same thing, it's a quarterly pump out requirement. That old grease trap of mine doesn't need that. It doesn't need it that often. The newer one, yeah, it probably does. But that's not the testing. And it's the testing of the discharge water where you're really going to be able to quickly ascertain who's getting their traps pumped out with enough frequency to prevent that grease discharge into the main sanitary sewer system. You know, because is somebody gonna come in, I mean, do y'all really wanna assign somebody every 90 days to hit all of the restaurants, have them come and open up their grease traps, stick a stick down there to measure it, but they also gotta get, there's all kinds of different sizes of grease traps. You know, there's 50 gallons, there are 100 gallons, there are all kinds of different dimensions, so you gotta know the dimensions to calculate how much water is in there, and calculate the percentage solids in there from the stick measurement, so it can turn into a real time
take care of that though, so
process.
I think they'll be able to take care of that. We'll be able to, hire whatever we come upon, come up with in order to get something, whether it's BJ or another company. So I think we'll be all right there. 15 minutes been up, so so thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Yep, I got a note, I'll shoot you the draft.
Okay. Yeah, be happy to read through it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Agenda item 9, consider introducing an ordinance to increase the budget in the roads and drainage department utilizing the excess road rehabilitation appropriation to fund additional costs of a John Deere 310 SL backhoe ordered in 2021-2022 budget year, increasing the original cost by $43,000. And council, what this is the backhoe, which is the 310 SL, has come in, and the price has increased from 103,000 to 146,000.
Second.
Any objections from anyone in the public? Hearing none?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes.
Ms. Lacy?
Yes.
Mr. Riviere?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Agenda item 10, consider authorizing a salary increase for Darius West upon the completion of his gas certification training on November 14th, 2022. And council, you see a letter in your folder. Mr. West completed his gas certification training November. He went November 14th through the 17th for the 2022 plastic fusion and joining training, and he would be granted a pay increase from step 109B to step 109C effective November 17th, 2022.
Move.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Riviere, second by Councilman Brown. Any objection, anyone in the audience wish to be heard? Hearing none?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes.
Ms. Lacy? Mr. Riviere?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Agenda item 11, considering the introduction of an ordinance for the funding of the superintendent of public works position as approved by the special meeting of the city council for a total of $9,526. Council, we're gonna table this because this should have been an adoption of the ordinance, which would require public posting in the website. So we gonna table this to the next council meeting. Right. Agenda item 12. This is the amended agenda item. Consider adoption of the resolution of the Louisiana Municipal Water Pollution Prevention to be submitted to DEQ as prepared by the PEC engineer. And this is your yearly requirement that we perform, and it's mandatory. And we have to start off with a resolution in order to get this project underway. And it roughly gonna run about, what, 5,000 a year, the budget? Yeah, 5,000.
I move.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Councilwoman Lacy, second by Councilman Brown. Any objections? Anyone from the audience wish to be heard? Hearing none?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes.
Ms. Lacy?
Yes.
Mr. Riviere?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Then round 13, public hearing to obtain views to consider the adoption of an ordinance of the city of Port Allen providing that the code of ordinances for the city of Port Allen be amended by revising Appendix B, zoning Article 11, Section 11.2 of said code, Appendix B, zoning Article 11, Section 3.1 of said code, Chapter 10, alcoholic beverages, Article 4, Section 130 to 132 of said code, and Appendix C, Schedule of Fees, Sections 1 and 2 of said code pertaining to the regulation of microbrewers and to provide for related matters. This is a public opening. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on this agenda item? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Agenda item 14, consider adoption of an ordinance of the city of Port Allen providing that the code of ordinances for the city of Port Allen be amended by revising Appendix B, zoning Article 11, Section 1.2 of said code, Appendix B, zoning Article 11, Section 3.1 of said code, Chapter 10, alcoholic beverages, Article 4, Section 130 through 132 of said code, and Appendix C, Schedule of Fees, Section 1 and 2 of said code pertaining to the regulation of microbrewers and to provide for related matters. Ms. Roche, you want to read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3 of 2023. An ordinance of the city of Port Allen provided that the code of ordinance for the city of Port Allen be amended by revising Appendix B, zoning Article 11, Section 11.2 of said code. Appendix B, zoning Article 11, Section 3.1 of said code. Chapter 10, alcoholic beverages, Article 4, Section 130 to 132 of said code. And Appendix C, Schedule of Fees, Section 1 and 2 of said code, pertaining to the regulations of microbreweries and to provide for related matters.
I move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Brown, second by Councilman Riviere. Any objections or anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this agenda item before we voted on? Hearing none?
Well, you gotta say.
Hold on. I have a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
What are the fees?
It was the same ones that were, we didn't change it since it was.
There weren't any fees assigned to the original, what you sent me 3 months ago. And I never got any updated copy on.
There was no update. That was we never changed that version. You got a copy of it? Oh, council, that's correct. With the council needs to set the fees in there. We had blanks for where the fees are gonna go. So that was one of the items that the council needed to decide upon.
So you do that now, I had to wait.
Most of the fees in our ordinances are in appendix. The ordinance is not amending the appendix, it's amending a different section. So I would suggest that you pass it as such and then go back and study. And
No, it has
Gotta
fees
be able to
in there.
learn.
It has the appendix.
But our fees are in a different section of the codes. All the fees are in one section, so if you don't amend both sections, if your ordinance isn't amending both sections, it's not going to be valid. And you don't have the text of the fee in what you just read. So I would suggest you pass it as such to permit the microbrewery,
So you go-
and then go back and set the fee. That way, you can at least do a study to determine what an appropriate fee is. But it's just a suggestion.
You can do that, or just discuss the fees and adopt it, the whole thing at another meeting.
But if we don't do it now, that'll hold the progress or the process of actually, having microbreweries in the city.
Well, right now, they're not allowed in the city right now, so they're not gonna be allowed until you move on the ordinance. The risk is if you, I don't know where Mr. Hammock is in the process. The risk is if you adopt it right now without any fees, if he gets it going in the meantime, whether there's no, you can't go retroactively go do fees, but, whether that's a concern or not.
Does it require, but I'm pretty sure your ordinance requires permitting of it. That's the fee process. More importantly, I lost my train of thought, but, what I was about to say about the fees. Jesus Christ. Look, the ordinance is just permitting microbreweries to take place, right? To be done in a certain area. You have to go back and do the fees anyway. And you're gonna have to determine, what an appropriate fee is. I lost my train of thought. I apologize.
Based on, the fees would be based on what other,
Well, this is a new type of business, so
Yes.
it's the same thing. All your businesses have fees, kind of like a license fees, and a microbrewery is a different type of business. So you have to decide, what is going to be the permit for that.
Well, and also keep in mind, okay, microbrewery fee, standalone microbrewery fee, is there gonna be a separate category for a restaurant that already gets an alcohol license to serve alcohol and is going to do a microbrewery? So there's multiple avenues of establishing those fees that you can go with.
We should take into account that he's already paying, restaurants that serve alcohol are already paying.
I'm already paying $500, I think it's $500 per year as a restaurant, and alcohol, to serve alcohol, and alcohol is not my primary mode of business. So I'm paying the same as a bar, which is their primary mode of business.
And the way, so the way this was drafted, we recognize two types of microbreweries. One is one that's part of a restaurant, and those are allowed to be in different areas of the city than one that may just be a pure brewery. A pure brewery would not be allowed in the DMU. We put that more in just commercial and industrial. So like you have a restaurant, that you want people coming in and out of. Those are the ones that you put in your mixed use. As of right now, the draft that you have in front of it's just a permit fees based on alcoholic beverages of high alcoholic content and low alcoholic content, which is the two categories that your current ordinances recognize. So your fee, as of right now, this draft, it does not make a difference whether this is part of a restaurant or not. Meaning, as part of a restaurant, they already sell alcohol, they're already going to have certain permits to sell alcohol in general. So that there would be revisions needed, if that's the way y'all end up going with your fees.
Okay, and also,
But the
another,
brewery-
under section 5.4, on the fees, it says that the city council by resolution may establish criteria for fees. So we can go ahead and adopt the ordinance and do the fee schedule, do a resolution, what to do it as. Section 5.4 with fees, the city
Right.
fees.
Section 5, and then please come back and Do a resolution for the fees.
You want to amend the ordinance.
I don't have a 5.3.
5.4.
Section 5.
I don't have any subsections. I have section 5 under our fees is for moving buildings.
Here.
This is in the zoning.
Well, what you're looking that up, I mean, just my thoughts on it. I'm sure he wants to go ahead and get the process started on building. But then at the same time, we don't wanna come back and say, hey, this is the amount, and it goes, whoa.
But then
Yeah,
if,
that was part of the traditional neighborhood development district, part of the zoning. I don't think that would be applicable to this.
Concerning fees.
Yeah, you have appendix C in your ordinances, which is your schedule of fees. That's where you have all your alcoholic beverage fees, your permits, licenses.
So keeping it at the same fee what it is now is what?
you have a fee.
We don't have a fee for microbreweries right now.
For the alcohol you talking about?
Yeah.
It's 500 for the alcohol.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's probably low ball.
What always comes back.
So right now, your alcoholic beverage fees are sections 1 and 2 of your schedule of fees. That's appendix C. Right now, a retail for high alcoholic content retailers, a full year's license is $500. A half year's license is $250. For low alcoholic content, Class A, a full year's license is $75. For Class B, a full year's license is $60.
So, what we're saying is, he already paying $500 for his alcohol license now. And for him to do the microbrewery license, we have to add more to it. Since it's two different things, he's still gonna sell alcohol? Okay.
And appendix C also says you can adopt it under the resolution.
Where are you looking at?
That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. So the issue here is one of statutory creation. This is a new ordinance, so, well, new provision. And you had to advertise it, and it specifically says what you are changing. It does not say you're changing Schedule B or C for fees.
Right.
There are no fees in
So
the
we have to
document.
go back.
So I would suggest you adopt it as such and say that the fees are to be determined so that you can properly notify people that you are adopting the fees, because you haven't done that.
Cause he not starting next week on it, so he
Well,
got
yeah,
time.
it can be addressed. The reality
I'm just
though
saying,
is
we got
the thing
time.
you don't want to have happen is for the whole thing to be declared invalid because you did not properly follow all the
Right,
steps.
right.
You know, and there's, and I just, the reason I asked for fees is because I saw it. You know, it's mentioning it, the schedule of fees, and I hadn't seen any determination on that yet. But also in the ordinance, this ordinance apparently doesn't go into effect until
That's the
July.
When is the effective date of the ordinance?
I think it's I believe it's the end of July. So
July 1st.
just as a informational aspect of it, for the federal license, and the federal license is gonna take about 90 days. The state license will take about 6 weeks. and those can be applied with concurrently. But I have to have this one first. I have to have applied and gotten approved for this one first before applying for those other two. So
what you're saying is once we approve this, we're gonna throw another fee on a local business owner.
Well, if you wanna open up a new business, you
No,
gotta.
I'm just saying, but then he has other, I don't want us to be so cumbersome on our businesses. We kind of alluded to that on the, on the grease trap thing. Yes, we want them to comply, but we don't want to just be I don't want to be a burden to our local business owners. We're not talking about a big, monopoly or whatever the word. I just don't want us to be a burden on our local businesses. Yes, it does cost to do business, but he's already paying the $500, the current cost of his annual liquor license.
Yeah, but
that doesn't
when
even
you trying to
include
open up
state
another
fee.
business, that's something, so he have to be fined something.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, either he don't want to sell no more alcohol in his restaurant and waive that fee for no alcohol and just pay the permit fee for the new business. So he have to pay one way or the other. You just say because he's a resident.
I'm not arguing that
And
fact.
he,
I just want-
we're
I
not
was-
saying because he's a city of Port Allen and he can't be fined his permit fee. No, we can't do that. We ought to be generous to all of them, but that's the law. We got to
I
charge.
don't want to waive the fee.
No, I'm not asking for any waivement of anything.
Yeah, we just want to
No,
give you a
I
price what you need to
understand.
pay.
I am asking to be fair
Right.
in the administration of the fee, because, I have this one, I also pay a state license to serve alcohol that is a little bit more, not much, but a little bit more expensive than the local one.
Yeah, it costs to be a
And
business
for the
owner.
microbrewers state license, that's another fee that I have to pay as well. So I'm actually, I'm up here today, understanding that I'm going to be paying minimum 3 more fees on an annual basis to the state and the city for alcohol, manufacturing, and a grease trap. So I understand that. I'm just asking for it to be fair. When y'all think about this,
But being that I don't know
it's
if
a lot of
have any
numbers.
other information like for microbrewers and what the fees. I just
The
figured,
state fee is $1,000 per year.
I just figured to go along with the fees we already had in place. That way, we wouldn't, so.
But we
it's
don't have
something
that
to-
in
But if it's
place.
something to look at and to consider,
It's a
I'm willing to
permit.
look at
Yeah,
and consider, but I
permit.
can't look at anything without even having the information. Really nothing to go off of besides what we have in place. So what we have in place is substantial, then that'll be what we'll go with. But other than that, why don't we just take some time and just kind of look at it and then come back and present that to you and move from there.
No, that's fine.
Let me add this, when we're looking at where he pays $500 a fee, license fee. Remember, what is percentage on food? Is it 80-90% that you use in the restaurant?
Last year, my percentage of alcohol sales accounted for 6% of my business.
Okay, but you're
We
paying
just
for
start selling
alcohol.
then.
Yeah,
content
I'm paying the same.
as a bar that will
Annual
sell
fee.
nothing but alcohol.
Right.
Now, let's not be deluded. He's not gonna be Anheuser-Busch. We're not gonna have silos and everything down here on Court Street. But I will tell y'all this, and I've come from a different area on this, and I've looked at this as a draw for the city. This can be a destination. It is something that I'm committed to in the Tourism Bureau as far as advertising dollars. So you have to look at, it's not Joe's Bar open up down the street. You have a different niche here. And take that into consideration when these fees are applied, that you're gonna have a draw, you're gonna have something that Port Allen, West Rouge Parish doesn't have at all.
That all do sound good, but still in all, if he's not making a profit on his alcohol, maybe you stop selling alcohol, you're making 6%, and focus on your
No,
liquor.
no, no, you're misunderstanding. You're misunderstanding the revenue or profit difference between the sale of alcohol.
What I'm saying is, you saying that you only have 6% sale of your alcohol?
6% of my total sales are alcohol. It's a very small component of my sales right now. I'm doing this to,
divided by 12 years.
you know, so,
Here we go.
what's that?
$41 a month. That is
Thank you.
$41. I don't think that's a lot for a bill
So-
to pay for a license.
39 cents a day.
$41, 4 bills will probably get you, you pay
Right,
$40
right.
a day. You know, it's not a lot of money, so I don't know why people gripe like that's a lot of money.
What number?
For the 500, you know, I hear other businesses gripe about that liquor, the license, $500. That's $41 a month. I mean,
And
What?
we also have plenty of other licenses that have to.
But you
But that's not our fault, you moved it for y'all open
What's
up.
you
that?
gotta pay them, though, it just.
That's
the
like with
I'm
my
talking
hand.
I'm talking about fairness.
I understand that, I understand.
And
Mr. Hammond, we gonna be fair,
Like
we
you
gonna
said,
be
we don't
fair.
need to discuss, since it's not in there, we don't need to discuss what the actual fee is gonna be tonight.
Correct. I agree with that. I hope
He's
that
just
you have
looking to
a-
get the ordinance actually passed,
Yeah. Let's go
allowing,
ahead and do that.
allowing.
Because
Because I can argue with you up here for hours on what I think, what I think the fee should be.
Yes. You made the motion,
You
Mr.
get,
Riviere
so,
second.
hold, got to speak one at a time. So,
He
What's
finished,
that?
you finished?
he finished.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I'm
respect your
just-
position, and you're supposed to do exactly what you're doing, to do what you feel, you know.
Yeah, making money.
Beneficial, and we have to do the same thing. We are a business too. I don't know what the people, sometimes people think, but we have to operate like a business. And government.
Okay, there's a motion.
All right.
Do we have a vote?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so just so we're clear, the motion is we're gonna proceed with the ordinance as is right now. The council understands right now the fee sections are blank. So as of right now, you're gonna adopt it and the council will come back at a later date and address the fees for microbreweries moving forward.
Right.
Okay.
We have a motion.
We did already.
Yeah.
So, Evan, let's get,
Might have to
because
re-motion.
in your ordinance, you says, appendix C, sections 1 and 2. That's separate from what's already in the fees because it shows $500.
No, because this would be adding new sections.
To the ordinance, so
To-
just the microbrewery.
Yes, this would be adding new provisions to appendix C, sections 1 and 2. So this ordinance would actually add 2 sections underneath what is already there. And those 2 sections would be applicable solely to microbreweries. So when you adopt this, those will be there, but there will just be no numbers behind that. So the council will have to come back at a later date and pass another ordinance inserting whatever numbers that it wants to insert for those fees.
Okay, so we probably gonna have to go with a different.
So right now, there will be no fees for it.
I know.
Let me ask one question, because I did not review the ordinance in its entirety. Are you required to have an alcoholic beverage permit license to have a microbrewery component? Do you have to have both?
Like in addition to, even though
In
we have
addition
one.
to, right. So in other words, are we limiting microbreweries to establishments that already have alcoholic beverage licenses to sell? No. So it's a separate.
It's separate.
So you can come in and just open a microbrewery.
Correct.
Thank you. Just wanted to point that out.
Hold on, wait.
What I mean is that
You gotta have 2 different licenses.
Yeah, that's
Mr. Hammock in his situation has a restaurant
correct. So he has.
that has an alcoholic beverage license to sell, retail. He's asking to be able to add a microbrewery component, but keep in mind that you're not required to have a restaurant
To
to have a microbrewery. You can just have a microbrewery.
But you still would need to get the license.
Right, so you have to make sure that you don't put those fees
Together.
contingent upon one another, because you create a situation when someone just wants to have a microbrewery, and they're gonna also more than likely sell the product at retail. So you're gonna have different situations that arise based on what the proprietor is trying to accomplish. So you're gonna have separate regulatory schemes. I just want to make that clear. No one's trying to be onerous. Fair is reasonable, but make sure you understand that everyone may not fall into his situation.
Correct.
So
But
you have to make sure that you account for that occurrence as well moving forward.
But that'll be with the fees and not this.
That's with all of it. No, that's with permitting and all of it,
So
because
the ordinance
what
right now?
say what?
The ordinance right now covers like.
No, that was the question. The question was, are you permitted to already be an alcoholic beverage retailer, right, in order to open a microbrewery? I just want to make sure that we understand exactly what we're doing. In other words, he has a restaurant, he can add a microbrewery. John Doe can come in and just open a microbrewery. Are we clear that that could occur without having the restaurant component? Right? Just make sure that, so you have to have a separate regulatory scheme, because everybody may not fall into Mr. Hammock's situation.
Right now, as drafted, the only distinction the ordinances makes between a situation like Mr. Hammock, where you have a restaurant that's gonna be having a microbrewery come along with it, and, somebody who just wants to open a microbrewery, is just the location itself on where you can have that.
The zoning.
The zoning, the zoning districts that you can have. You can open just a standalone microbrewery, basically anything that's commercial or industrial. But for restaurants, and obviously you don't have a lot of restaurants maybe in your industrial districts. If you have a restaurant microbrewery kind of connection thing going on, like he's proposing, your ordinance will allow that to be in the DMU zoning as well. Right. But that's the only distinction right now that the ordinance makes.
So because of the uniqueness of this situation, then we have to.
Well, I guess, and what that comes down to, is if you're going to
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to have a lower fee for a microbrewery that's also going to have a restaurant, and there's going to be some other fees that go along with having a restaurant. If you do want to create that situation, that is something that would have to be addressed in the ordinance. In the fees, these are fees just for any microbrewery. You'll need a separate fee. Well, if this microbrewery is part of an existing business that already has an alcoholic license permit, then no additional permit would be necessary, but you would have to add those provisions into the ordinances as well, in addition to the amounts, whatever those amounts end up being.
And one other thing, the microbrewery provision allows you to open a microbrewery and produce. Doesn't include the right to sell it, because then you have to account for that too. See, those are all different functions. Anheuser-Busch brews and sells at wholesale. Okay, so you have to consider all of the different variables that could arise under every set of circumstances. He's going to sell his product, but he already has permission to sell as a restaurant. A separate microbrewery that's not a restaurant, what are they going to do with it? Can they sell it at wholesale? Can they sell it at retail? Because all of those things have to be addressed. Just making sure you need to recognize.
With the state right now, last year they made some changes to state law that allows microbreweries on a limited basis to self-distribute. They don't have to go through your Mottlers or your Crescent Climate. That's starting to percolate out there, I think, because it's very, very, very new. prior to last year, microbreweries could not distribute. They could sell retail themselves on premises. They could not distribute to anybody else.
And your plan, what's your plan? What's your plan?
My plan is to get this little operation up and going and hopefully build it, and then to possibly start self-distributing to 10, 15, 20 establishments in the area, in the tri-parish area, whatever you want to call it. Because it's the volume that an operation like this needs to really be sustainable. And that self-distribution aspect was something that was pushed very hard by the Craft Brewers Guild for the past few years to make happen. Because why is a small microbrewery beholden to these behemoth distribution companies to distribute their product? If I want to hold my own, if I want to hold my future in my own hands, why can't I buy a truck, put some kegs in it, put some packages in it, and take it down the street to Walk-Ons or Rotolos or wherever in Platinum, Brewery, Baton Rouge. So the legislature finally came around and started to understand that, and they made some tweaks to the law that started allowing that. So am I going to do that right off the bat? No. I got to get the main part of the operation up and going first.
All right. So we got a motion on the table by Councilman Brown and Councilman Riviere to go ahead and approve the ordinance, but to
Okay.
Mr. Hammack is requesting that we pull the ordinance for tonight's consideration and come back and maybe consider it after another month. And basically, there's one issue that we want to run down in terms of a microbrewery being able to transport to another licensed alcoholic beverage retailer for sale at retail. As of right now, the draft ordinance is that, so that's something that we want to take a look at. That may be a restriction on them that they may ultimately have to be there, but maybe we can take it out.
I mean, to me, that definitely needs, that language definitely needs to be in there. If it grows, which hopefully it does, where you can self-distribute, like you said, walk on wherever.
And it's more along the lines of making sure that
We really
the
not
wording,
rush for this, to be honest.
If it's not going to hold him off, I would recommend we pull it.
making sure that the wording of this aligns with state law and the allowances that state law gives. You know, I don't want state law to say I can do this, but then y'all say no, you can't do that, and so it's kind of I don't know what term it is.
Yeah. So, and when I lost my train of thought earlier, that's what I was going to say. I don't recall what the effective date is, but I think that one thing has been clearly established, that you all are supportive of the endeavor. So, whether or not it's going to be permitted is probably not the question. The question is how. And if the effective date is not until July first, we got
Yeah.
a lot of time, several more meetings, because you wanna get it right the first time, so.
Right.
And just look at all the, like you say, all the variables, all the things.
Yeah.
Just look at it all.
So how does it get out of it?
So, just a motion to table this one.
Move the table.
I second.
All right, we got a motion, substitute motion on the table. By Councilman Brown, second by Councilwoman Gordon, to table this issue for further discussion. Any objections, anyone from the public wish to be heard on this agenda item? No one wish to be heard, your vote?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes.
Ms. Lacy? Yes. Mr. Riviere?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, agenda item is tabled. Agenda item 15, condemnation proceedings.
None at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. Agenda item 16, alcoholic and beverage permits.
None at this time.
Thank you. Agenda item 17, announcements and correspondence. I have several. Councilmember, members, Ellen May will have the municipal day, function Tuesday, April 25th. It's $75 per member, so if you're interested in going, I need to know ASP, so we can go ahead and pay for your membership, your registration. West Baton Rouge Chambers have their annual awards banquet, Tuesday, March 21st at 6 p.m. at Addis Community Center. If you plan on attending, I need to know like yesterday. So let me know before, at the end of this meeting, so we can pay for your attendance. Otherwise, you'll be paying $75 to get in at the door.
What day it is there?
Tuesday, March the 26th, March the 21st, next Tuesday. Yeah. And then I want to say congratulations to the Boy Island High Boys basketball team. Who made it to the state final.
Lost my heart.
They had a well-fought 3 overtime battle, and now there's a rematch between Port Island and Winfield.
Coach,
This Saturday.
don't wear that red shirt Saturday night.
Oh yeah, I know.
Red.
I sat and watched the game afterwards. They're a tough team.
Yeah.
So we gonna go in with
Big boys.
the Pelicans Saturday at 4 p.m. in Lake Charles. Also, I attended a program, a Black History Day program at the Bellman High School today, and it was very entertaining. It lasted about an hour and a half at 12 today. So kudos to the students and the staff for putting on that program, for the parents and the elected officials. And then finally, I think Ms. Roche has a presentation she wants to, announcement she wants to.
I think this is what it's on. Do us the honors. Look at all three.
The mayor actually stole my thunder. I wanted to say, as a Brewer alumni, I was gonna give a shout out to her.
You can still do
I
it.
can still say it?
Yep, you can do it. You take it.
Okay, it's been International Women's Day. It's celebrated on March the 8th. It is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. We chose tonight to do this honor because of the rescheduling of last night's meeting. On behalf of Mayor Lee, the city council members, and citizens of Port Allen, tonight it is an honor for me to pay tribute to two special ladies. Both ladies are active members on the city council. They're being recognized because they have made history in the city of Port Allen by being the first two women to serve on the council at the same time. They are not afraid to tackle any task that is beneficial for the well-being of the city and their constituents. In so many words, they take their job serious. Both of these ladies are very vocal and outspoken. They may not agree on everything, but in the end, they are very respectful of each other's opinion and end up by sharing this common goal, which is doing what's best for the city of Port Allen. We appreciate both of you and pray God's continued blessings upon you. And ladies, represent well, because there may be that little girl out there looking around and say, hey, I want to be just like her. So do us good, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Councilwoman Charlene Gordon and Councilwoman Clerice. Thank you so much. And we do have a little reception in the back for you, okay?
Thank
So
you.
feel free to come back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other announcements? We go to agenda item 18, adjourn. We have a motion by Councilman Brown, second by Councilwoman Lacy. Adjourn.